The US Navy announced on May 26 that it was awarding Lockheed Martin a $43.9 million contract for work supporting production and sustainment of the Trident II D5 missile. It was a relatively modest award as these things go, so the announcement went largely unnoticed outside the defense community. You would never guess from reading the news release that the D5 is the most powerful, reliable weapon in the US military arsenal, a system so potent that it is the centerpiece of US efforts to prevent nuclear war. Nor would it be apparent that Lockheed Martin, prime contractor on the missile, has been performing similar services for the Navy since 1955. In fact, it has built all 6 generations of the Navy's fleet ballistic missile in one of the longest continuous relationships any company has ever had with the world's premier sea service. Lockheed Martin has been a contributor to my think tank and a consulting client for nearly a third of that time, and even I seldom hear anything about the D5. The reason why is that unlike just about any other major weapon system you can mention, there never seems to be a problem with the missile. The Navy runs a very tight ship when it comes to nuclear deterrence, and it keeps Lockheed Martin on board because its 3-stage, solid-fuel ballistic missile is the most reliable such vehicle ever built, bar none. How reliable? Since its design was completed in 1989, the D5 has executed 165 successful test flights, a record unmatched by any other large ballistic missile or launch vehicle. As for its potency, a single D5 equipped with multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles carrying nuclear warheads can destroy a small country such as North Korea. A handful of D5s could collapse the entire electrical grid, transportation network and information infrastructure of even the largest countries. And the Navy has hundreds of D5 missiles. So why would the United States need such a fearsome weapon? The answer comes down to this: if you can't defend your homeland against a large-scale nuclear attack, then the next best option is to threaten adversaries with devastating retaliation if they launch one. In other words, you have to convince the enemy that attacking America would be suicidal. The strategy is called deterrence, and it is the main reason why no foreign nation has seriously threatened the US with nuclear aggression since the Navy built out its undersea missile force. When the goal is deterring aggression, the key metric of success isn't how many weapons a country possesses. It's how many weapons survive a surprise attack, because those are the weapons the enemy has to worry about. Possessing a secure retaliatory force is the sine qua non of effective deterrence. So deploying hundreds of D5 missiles on submarines that stay submerged and undetectable for months at a time is just about the most potent deterrent imaginable. The US actually maintains a triad of nuclear systems, D5s on submarines, land-based ballistic missiles, and long-range bombers, so enemies can harbor no illusions about their ability to disarm America in a surprise attack. But countries like Russia know precisely where US land-based missile silos and bomber bases are located, so they could hypothetically be targeted in a crisis. The submarines can't be. Once they are on station under the Atlantic or Pacific Oceans, they are essentially impossible to find, and thus highly survivable. That's why the Pentagon plans to deploy over 2/3 of the warheads in the US strategic arsenal on submarines in the years ahead. A single Ohio-class ballistic missile submarine has 24 missile tubes, and each of the D5s in those tubes carries at least several nuclear warheads that can be directed at separate targets. The missiles can carry up to 14 warheads, although the max per missile today is probably 8 due to arms control limitations. Each warhead has a yield of 100 or 475 kilotons, and can hit within 300 feet of intended targets. At those yields, 5 to 25 times the explosive power of the weapon that leveled Hiroshima in 1945, the warheads carried by a D5 can destroy pretty much anything, including a hardened command bunker. So even an erratic foreign leader like Kim Jong-un would have to think long and hard before attacking the US. Chances are, such leaders would not survive the first wave of US retaliation, which would arrive from Navy submarines less than 30 minutes after the attack was detected. The Navy has begun developing a next-generation submarine designated to the Columbia class that will be even harder to track than the 14 Ohio-class boats comprising the current undersea deterrent. The first such vessel will commence construction at the Electric Boat Unit of General Dynamics in 2021, with delivery planned for 2027, about the time that Cold War ballistic missile subs begin retiring. But the Navy hasn't developed a successor to the D5, because it isn't clear something better is needed. What the Navy is doing instead is extending the life of the D5 design from 25 years to 50 by modernizing everything from the guidance system to the re-entry vehicle hosting the warheads. The program commenced in 2002 and the first two life-extended missile were loaded onto a sub in February. So when the first Columbia-class sub goes to sea at the end of the next decade, it will be carrying D5 missiles, as will the next generation of British ballistic missile subs, which draw their weapons from the same pool as the Navy under an agreement stretching back to 1963. The high reliability demonstrated by the D5 is especially noteworthy given the unique way in which it is launched. The missile is actually ejected from the sub and clears the water's surface before its engine ignites, using a burst of steam. 2 minutes after the first stage ignites, the missile is already moving at a speed of 13,000 feet per second, and quickly exits the atmosphere before deploying its re-entry vehicles to hit widely separated targets half a world away. The nominal range of the missile is 4,000 nautical miles, but its warheads can actually fly much farther. It isn't likely that any aggressor could cope with a cloud of incoming warheads and associated penetration aids moving at 24 times the speed of sound. That's their aptly named terminal velocity, 18,000 miles per hour. So the message D5 sends aggressors is unambiguous: if you attack us, you will die. Under the ongoing Service Life Extension program, it will continue delivering that message to any potential enemy into the 2040s. No mission is more important to America's security, and yet the cost of maintaining the undersea deterrent, both the subs and the missiles, will only amount to about 1% of the defense budget in the years ahead. Maybe someday the Navy will devise a plan for building missiles even more potent and reliable than the D5. That day isn't coming anytime soon though, because D5 is as close to perfection as the Pentagon's acquisition system is currently capable of providing. Which means Lockheed Martin and its suppliers have a franchise that will last a long, long time.